truth.
No chaser.
My name is Carl Miller. I'm originally from Philadelphia. Grew up in Atlanta. I currently work for the VA. I have a son who's 22 years old. And pretty much it. Lived in Vegas for 20 years, and that's where most of my issues started. So,
Okay. We see you have quite a hobby behind you. We see all those guitars. What's that about?
Yeah, that's my passion. I've been playing since I was a kid, and I'm just in a position now where I'm blessed to have as many as I do. Can always add more, but you know.
Absolutely. That's what's up, man. You had mentioned that you reside in Vegas for a while.
I did.
Yes, and again, this show is our platform for you to be able to convey to the people. You had mentioned a problem, and we're talking specifically about a gambling problem, correct?
Right.
All right. So if you can, in your own words, your story, please just convey to us from the top how it all began.
Okay. When I first moved to Vegas, it was interesting. My mother had already moved there. I was still living in Atlanta.
Okay.
And I decided I wanted to go visit my mom in Vegas. So I visited, and I loved it. I was able to get work immediately. Whereas in Atlanta, it was a struggle to get work, and I was able to actually make more money. So I ended up staying, and didn't get into the gambling though until probably like a year after living there. Mm-hmm. I would see when I go to the bars, because the video poker was my addiction. And I would see people when I go to the bars play video poker, and just never really got into it, but also going into, with my mother and that kind of stuff. It was like, eventually I was like, oh man, I'll give it a shot. So I started playing one quarter at a time. Now the game itself actually takes 5 quarters to have it fully loaded. Okay. So this is how intimidated I was. I would play 1 quarter at a time. Mm-hmm. And the first time I won, I think I won, I hit what's called a royal flush. If anyone's familiar with poker, I hit a royal flush with 1 quarter in. I think it paid like $125 or something to that effect. Mm-hmm. And someone kindly brought it to my attention that had I had it loaded, it would have been $1,000.
Okay.
So the exact same day, I decided, all right, well, now I got 125. It wasn't mine to begin with. So I'm just going to go ahead and play with it loaded, see what happens.
House money, they call that, right?
House money, exactly. I'm playing with house money. So I went on and did that. And oddly enough, I hit another royal flush, that time with it loaded. Mm-hmm. So, I ended up, like I said, I probably had $10 when I was sitting at the bar to my name at that time.
Wow.
Started with literally $10. I'm playing quarters. So now you figure I hit a royal flush, I got over $1,000, and they come out, they pay you cash, boom, 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 right over the bar.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that was the beginning of the end.
I can understand. I mean, to be honest with you, sometimes it's just that simple, if you start to get rolling and forget about it. I obviously, like a person like me, now, I can't speak for everybody else, but I don't like losing anything. I lose $20, I'm out of there.
Right. Well, see, that's the funny thing about it, because again, when you're starting like I did with just quarters, you know what I'm saying? It's not that serious to you. Like I'm losing $1, $2. It's not that serious to you. I'm only playing 1 quarter at a time.
Yeah.
But after they paid you that $1,000, and like I said, they come right to the bar, they peel it off, put it right in your hand, and all of a sudden it hits you psychologically that's the easiest money you ever made in your life.
Right. Yes.
You know what I mean? Yeah. It's like it's a hell of a feeling. That dopamine rushes into your brain, and then you're just like on this high, and so of course I tried it a couple more times that week, and a couple more times that week, unfortunately, I won.
Oh.
Same thing. So I'm like, now in my mind, this is easy. Right. I'm like, I just found the ultimate come up. I can do this whenever I want to do it. Like I control this, right? You know, and that's generally how it starts. I mean, you always hear people when you talk about gambling, you always hear people who say, I can never get addicted to anything. Right. Or I can never get addicted to gambling. But then if you're coming from the vantage point of where I lived and what I've seen, you realize that that's because they never won anything. You know what I mean? So it's like it's really it's totally different when
you're winning.
when you win. No, because it's like kind of like smoking weed without the THC.
Okay.
You know, if you're just smoking weed and ain't got no THC, and of course you're not gonna get addicted to it because you ain't getting
it. Took it out. Yeah. That's a great analogy. That's a great analogy. So you said the now let's talk about the issue, the when you realized it was an actual issue. Now, because now you're winning, but there's lows to that too. So So now let's speak on that.
All right. Well, you know, again, it's like it takes you to really get to the point where you hell, I mean, it took me years to get to the point where I could acknowledge to myself realistically that I had a problem. Right. But then even the problem itself, you know what I'm saying, it has a progression. It doesn't start off like, oh man, you just have a problem. You know, it progresses over time. The urge to gamble, the urge to continue to gamble. These things are kind of like they're kind of like learned behaviors through gambling that you kind of learn. And then from that point on, it's what contributes to the problem. I'll give you a good example of that. There have been times when I would sit down and gamble and I would get down to my last dollar or my last quarter or 50 cents or whatever. And then all of a sudden I would hit. And then now I'm right back up. You know what I'm saying?
Wow.
But what that does is that teaches you subconsciously that it's possible to get down to that last dollar, to get down to that last quarter. So what you do then is from that point on, you're willing to go that far. You see what I'm saying? You're teaching yourself you're willing to go that far, where people say, I don't understand how you can sit down and put your last dollar in the machine. Well, I've won a lot of money on that last dollar, unfortunately. So it's a progression. And what happens is that you have to get to a point, I guess, where you're honest with yourself about realizing that you have a problem. For me, it was just circumstantial. I'm losing, but I'm still chasing. But I'm still in denial. I got this under control. And then also the component of gambling that's very different with other addictions is this. With other addictions, you don't think, if I just smoke another weed, if I smoke more weed or if I have another hit of this crack or whatever, I'm going to get it back. I can get back. You see what I'm saying? Being that this is money-based, it's much harder with gambling because you do realize you have done it before, gotten down to your last dollar and gotten everything back. You know what I'm saying? And so it's like, that's the difference with gambling. It's much more lethal in that regard. Because yes, you're willing to continue to go because you know that you can get your rent money back. You can get, it's possible. It's not likely, but it's possible. And so that's the problem. So again, for me, it just took a while. It really did. It took a while for me to understand so much of the psychology behind the lies that I was telling myself. I mean, you know, when you gamble, when you're addicted, you tell yourself lies. You don't believe that you have a problem. So you come up, your brain is complex like that. It comes up with all these different defense mechanisms, these different, you know, things to keep you playing, because that's all the brain wants at the end of the day anyway. Addiction is simply about more. Whatever it is that you're addicted to, that's what addiction is, more.
Gotcha.
So your brain will come up with all kind of different messages to tell you like, okay, you're just having a bad run, or superstitious, like you rub your hands this way before you sat down and started playing. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. Or the little things like, you know, that person over there hit, so that might be a hot machine and stuff like that. And
Exactly.
Yeah, I get it. Right.
So
that's I'm sorry, go ahead.
Okay, Carl, finish.
No, I was just saying, so that's pretty much how it, you know, like it progresses. And then once it progresses, you start to realize that, man, like I go to sleep at night. I'm having these dreams about gambling. I'm seeing the machines in my head.
Wow.
Like, you know,
Wow.
I can't even break it. Like, I'm like, yeah. So you get that in depth with it. And that's what I'm saying. Then you start to realize this is an addiction. It's not recreation anymore. You know, you start doing things like, okay, well, where is my next money coming from?
Right.
Now I'm willing to do whatever it takes to get this next money so that I can get back to this machine, you know, and play more. So all these things that you're starting to do in terms of your behavior, the way you compromise your morals and your beliefs, those are all indications that, yes, you have a problem. You know,
so aside from,
go ahead.
Because it's a delay. I'm sorry for the delay. So aside from you seeing the machines and stuff in your head at night and you're sleeping and you realize you're lying to yourself, were there other warning signs that you knew this was an issue?
Man, yeah, there's a lot. Like I said, there's a lot. And I can go on forever about the signs. But the thing about it is, I guess, that there are so many. It's just, are you willing to accept them? You know, are you willing to see them? But everything that exists was a sign. You know what I'm saying? Like, I got paid today at 12 o'clock, and by 4 o'clock, my check is gone. There's a sign.
Yeah, that's a problem.
That's a sign, you know? So that's what I'm saying. It's like, I guess what I'm trying to say is that you can have all the signs in the world.
Right.
But if you're not willing to be honest with yourself about and truthful with yourself about where you are and what is going on. And that's the part that keeps people going on forever, because they don't want to face themselves.
Yeah.
And be honest with themselves.
Let's dive deeper really quickly. So the previous conversation that you and I had, and it was the cross addiction, the addiction that leads to the next.
Right. Well, the thing about that is, let me just say this. The thing about that is that truly, you have addiction, and a lot of people think that the addiction is the actual problem.
Okay.
But the addiction is like the tree that's above the ground. Okay. Underneath the tree, you have the whole root system.
All right.
And that is emotional trauma, psychological trauma, things that you've never really paid attention to and are willing to focus on. Especially with us as a Black community, mental health issues, we kind of tend to push aside. We don't want to address these things. You know, and so these are the things that begin to happen when you suppress mental health issues, when you suppress things like anxiety, you suppress things like depression and that kind of stuff, and you don't acknowledge them, then they will manifest themselves in different ways in your behavior. Be it you become more proficient at lying to people or stealing from people, or, you know, all kind of different ways they'll manifest themselves in your behavior. So that is really what's at the core of most addictions, is emotional or psychological trauma, in my opinion. Again,
and just how one deal with that, though. You know, with the emotional trauma. I mean, is it one of those things where everyone is different, or are there set techniques that you may have, or?
It is, everyone is different, but I guess for me, it's again another progression, because I was getting help for the gambling. Okay. You know, I put myself in many different programs, and I tried to stop gambling for, at least about 8 years. I would do well. I try, I'll get another program, then I'd do well for about 6 months and get back to it. And, I would go to meetings, which I didn't like going to the GA meetings. I'm not a big GA person. But I would try everything. I mean, I was willing to give all kinds of things a try. And then that's what made me conscious of the fact that, like, it's deeper than just gambling.
The gambling, yeah.
Yeah.
Once you actually go ahead.
No, go ahead.
So once I actually got help and we focused on the gambling, then, they made it clear to me also in the program that I was in that you also have to address your emotional. I haven't gambled in 4 years. So that's a good thing.
Yeah.
However, I'm still dealing with, the emotional trauma stuff, that baggage that's there. As if I don't address it, like we said, that's where cross addiction stuff comes in. It will find another way to manifest. Okay, so I'm not gambling anymore, but I'm drinking heavily. I just got a sign that said my connection is unstable, so I hope you guys can still hear me.
Yeah, we can
Yeah,
still
we can
hear
hear
you. Mhm.
Okay. So that's where that cross addiction can come in. If you're, again, it's all about awareness. And, I think that's the hardest part about addiction is there's so many things that we aren't aware of
Mhm.
as a community, as a people, and it's just about educating ourselves about these things because, again, like I said, these are things that affect everyone. It's not just Black people, white people, it affects everyone.
Mhm.
The way your brain works, psychology. So it's just education. I think that's huge.
Would you so vice, the word vice, would you say that there's a difference between what is the difference between an addiction and a vice? Because it almost sounds like you can pick up another quote unquote habit. Like that, and that's what you were referring to, the cross addiction. So, you know, I for example, I smoke cigars. But it's not a coping mechanism or anything. But for some people, it is. Like like they to stop one thing, they start another. Like you're saying,
Right.
But but I just consider that a vice. But for some of my constituents, that's actually an addiction. They smoke a little too heavy, in my opinion. But so what would be your rebuttal to that?
Well, for me, it's like this: is you can identify addiction when it gets to the point of whatever the behavior is causing you a problem in your life.
Okay.
Okay. So, like up until that point, you can call it whatever you want. You can say it's a vice. You can say it's a recreation.
Hobby.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
But when it gets to the point that it's causing a problem,
Mm-hmm.
and you feel still compelled that you have to do it,
Mm-hmm.
you know what I'm saying? You become aware that it's causing a problem and you're still willing to continue the behavior, then now that's where you have to really start to consider, do I have an addiction? Is this an addiction?
Did it cause a problem with you and your loved ones, your friends, stuff like that?
Oh, yes, of course.
Okay.
I mean, first of all, let me start off by saying, okay, I have PTSD. I'm a veteran, Air Force veteran. I have PTSD and I have anxiety issues. So like those were the roots that I was talking about. That was way before the gambling came about.
Right.
But before the gambling came about, I would basically have, I was considered to have addictive personality, period. Whatever I did it with excess. You know what I'm saying? So it was no just moderation with me. I didn't understand the term moderation. Whatever I did, it was to excess. So if it was drinking, it would be to excess. That kind of. So those are the things that were underneath before the addiction that weren't getting addressed, but they just opened the door for me to get an addiction because truthfully, most addictions are a way of psychologically checking out, where you don't have to deal with the reality, the stress of your life. Gambling is a perfect way to check out because you're sitting there for hours at a time with a machine and you're just so focused on that machine. You're not thinking about your bills or you're not thinking about anything.
Right.
It gets to the point where you check out so much that even though you don't have the money to do what you're doing, your brain won't even allow you to think like that. Like I've sat there and played and I've sat there and lost okay, this is a good example. I win $1,000 back when I was gambling. Okay. Right. Then I take that $1,000 and instead of getting up and leaving, because again, brain wants more. It's not about the money. It's the part that we kind of fool ourselves with in addiction is that we tell ourselves it's about whatever the thing is. It's about more Coke. It's about it's just about more, period.
Right.
Yeah.
Psychologically, your brain doesn't know $1 is better than $5 or $20. You know what I'm saying? It's not about the monetary denomination. It's about more. You just want to continue. It don't matter how much money you have, but we tell ourselves about the money. But your brain don't give a damn about that. Your brain just wants more. Like you got inaction, play, more play.
Just play more. Yeah,
right.
I got you.
So I win $1,000 and I sit there and I play and I'm like, all right, I'm not going to lose this $1,000 back. I can't afford rent. I got this, I got that. But you get in and you start playing and then all of a sudden, it's gone.
Damn.
And then you're like, damn, but then that was just like early in the beginning. I mean, I got up to the higher denominations where 4,000 I'd win and give it all back. And you know what I'm saying? Like,
oh, my heart.
Dude,
Shit.
I
lost $70 in Vegas, and I'm hurt.
Yeah, I lost 60, and I was
so.
But Carl, what was your breaking point when you knew you had to make a change?
I got to a point where I was suicidal. You know, it's a long road to get to that point, at least for me. But gambling is a roller coaster, or most addictions, it's just roller coaster. Yeah. 1 minute you're up, next minute you're down. 1 minute up, next minute down. Mm-hmm. So what you're training your brain is that your emotions are contingent upon your gambling. Mm-hmm. So if I was having a good day gambling, I'm cool. I'm nice with people. I'm having, everything is good.
Yeah.
Let me lose $1,000 in gambling. I don't want to talk to people. I don't want to be around nobody. And then, you know what I'm saying? It's like, so you're training yourself to think in this unrational way that up, down, up, down, up, down.
Yeah.
Emotional highs, emotional lows.
Mm-hmm.
So that's where it got really difficult. I got to a point where I just was tired of the highs and lows, tired of like trying and trying and trying and trying. So I got to a point where it was like, I'd rather be dead.
Wow.
To have this thing that I can't quite understand. I mean, like, in most aspects of my life, I was able to succeed fine. My work, never had a problem. You know what I'm saying? I've always worked. I've always had a great work ethic. Again, feel like I'm a fairly intelligent person. You know what I'm saying? So this is where gambling is totally, or addiction is totally debilitating, because yet you're doing this behavior that makes no sense whatsoever.
Yeah.
And you cannot bring yourself to stop. So from a moral standpoint, you're just as defeated. You just, you don't even like to look at yourself in the mirror. And that's where I was. I just didn't want to do it anymore. Just got tired of it. Just, but there were other things going on in the background in terms of like some child issues that I was having, childhood issues with my family. And, so there are other things that weren't getting addressed as well. So I just got to a point where I think I attempted suicide one time, took an overdose pills.
Wow.
Yeah, just didn't want to wake up.
Now, quick question. You made a comment earlier about addictive personality. And so my question to you is, do you think that stemmed from childhood? Your parents, were they addicts as well?
Many years into this journey of mine, I came to the realization that, my mother was, and my mother was, first of all, she has a problem with gambling. Okay. Mm-hmm. But then I also found out that her mother, my grandmother, had a problem with gambling and everything else. So it was there. Sometimes you are genetically, predisposed. Mm-hmm. I do believe that.
Wow.
But then also, again, like I said, childhood issues play a major role in, obviously, like I said, the way that you become an adult, the way you deal with things as an adult. And most children tend to suppress those issues, those memories, bad memories, regression, that kind of stuff. We tend to suppress that stuff, but that stuff will always find a way to manifest itself in part of your behavior some way. And then most of the times it's negative. So that's where going back and addressing those things are important, important. It's not about the stigma. And if as a people, we get over the stigma of mental health issues.
Right.
We could do so well.
So I'm gonna say, Carl, like I honestly, I knew that this was gonna be one of the most interesting interviews. I want to now, just something that you had mentioned. You said there was a point where you couldn't stand to look at yourself in the mirror. So honestly, like I want to take this second for you right now to speak out to a person that is dealing with the same thing. That person that cannot look themselves in the mirror because this has become such a problem for them in their lives, and it's affecting their livelihood in a negative manner. I need you to just take a minute just to convey to that person how they can be able to deal with their issues?
Belief in, I guess what it is for me personally, I had a very strong belief system in from spiritually. I had a good, strong spiritual belief. Even when I would go to GA, and I'm getting to the other part in a minute where I will speak out to, those people. But when I was going to GA, like they have this thing in GA where they want you to admit that you're powerless over your addiction. So even then I couldn't do that. I did not believe at no point in time that I am powerless. I may not have an answer, but I do realize that the answer rests within me. I got myself into this. I got myself addicted. And I did believe that if I did the right things, be it reach out for help, get to a point where I'm willing to do whatever it takes, that I could get myself out of it. I firmly believe that. So in speaking to other people, I think that's the most important thing I want everybody to know, is that you have that power within you. Nothing external is going to do it for you. Because people think sometimes, okay, religion may do it for me and praying to God and this. No, you have to do it for yourself. You have to want it for yourself, and you have to make it happen for yourself. Which means you can work, which means you're willing to do whatever it takes. And that's the part where a lot of people in gambling have a problem, because they're like me. I would quit. Quit. And then I'd go for like 6 months, or I'd go for a year. Maybe I was good, this, that, and the other thing. And then I'd end up going back.
Yeah.
But again, I would always lie to myself. Oh, I can handle going into the bar. I can handle seeing the machines. I'm over this. I'm over this.
Yeah.
Again, I was not being honest with myself that I am an addict.
Right.
And I will never be normal in that regard. And that's okay, but I had to get to a place where I understood that that's okay. Acceptance is also a big, accepting that, yes, you are who you are. It is not by your, but that doesn't mean that you have to accept the negative behavior that goes with it. You can get help. You can speak to people. You can, get counseling, therapy, what it takes. But I think it goes back in just being willing to do whatever it takes.
Right.
That is huge. Like I left Vegas. I moved out of Vegas. It was like, I don't care where I live in the country, but it won't be Vegas ever again.
Wow.
And that's the thing. Like you have people who sit there and say, well, that's running away from your problems. You can call it what you want to call it. I don't give a damn.
That's true. That's true.
You did what you had to do for you.
Exactly. And that's the bottom line. That's the bottom
Carl,
line.
man, I so appreciate this conversation, brother.
Yes.
Again, so appreciative of you sitting down with Ashley and myself with Truth No Chaser and conveying your story, sharing your story. And brother, just appreciate you having me.
I really do.
Absolutely, absolutely. Yes, sir. So we gonna end it off there, man. Again, any last little gem that you can give, with little one worder, little knock out the park?
Man, that's a tough one. Just believe in yourselves. I mean, for those people out there that are struggling, there is help available. And you've got to get past the stigma of having a weakness or having an illness or all of that stuff. You're going to go through those things at some point in time in your life. It's just natural. And if we can get past that stigma and seek out that kind of help, it's worth it. You see all the guitars behind me.
Yes.
Yes, sir. My man.
Well, congrats on the 4 years of no gambling.
Yes.
And thank you so much for your transparency and just being honest and open. Hopefully we know pray it's going to help somebody.
Yes, I hope so.
All right. I'll be keeping in touch, brother. Okay.
Okay, brother. Have a good one.
Thank you. Have a good one, Carl.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
All right.